Renatto, host of the Lead Up podcast, where we have conversations that move leaders forward. On today's episode, I sit down with Silverio Rizo, aka Silver, to talk about his journey from IYT to the workforce and the importance of mentorship and service. Hey, what's going on, everybody? Renatto, host of the Lead Up podcast, where we have conversations that move leaders forward. On this episode, I sit down with Silverio Rizo, a legislative assistant with the California State Assembly. He was also a former alumni with Improve Your Tomorrow, also known as IYT, which happens to be part of my day job. I serve as senior director for the Central Valley with IYT, where we focus on getting more young men of color to and through college. Today, we'll talk with Silverio about his journey through IYT, starting as a participant in the program to working as a mentor in the program, and now working to give back to his community, working at the state. This time is super important as we are responding to a need for more men in the state of California to step up and serve, whether they are mentors, leaders, or coaches. All right, here we go. So I want to do something before we start off. I sent you some questions beforehand, but I want to get a live reaction.
Okay.
So open that up and tell me who was that guy. For those that are just listening and not viewing this, I just handed him an old school picture of him from back in the day in high school. So tell me, who was that? What was that Silver like in that picture?
Yeah. Well, I mean, definitely it's been quite some time, you know. I think I was definitely still trying to find myself and who I was. And so, I know at the time I loved, playing soccer, interested in politics, like playing video games, but definitely much younger, much, less, not as mature version of myself for sure.
Yeah.
So
what's your reaction kind of looking at that picture?
Yeah, it definitely takes you back, that mural. I always walked past it when I went to class. And so, definitely a different time and place,
Yeah. Yeah. And I know you mentioned, even at that time, sounds like you had an interest in politics, and we'll talk about that now because that's kind of the field you're in now. But kind of sticking in that realm, right? Which is funny. Like, I think around that time is when I got to know you a little bit through the organization. So tell me more, like, who were you before joining? For some people, they know as Improve Your Tomorrow or IYT, and you got to be a part of that. Like, who were you before joining IYT?
Yeah, I mean, before I joined, I think growing up, like, as an immigrant in the son of immigrant parents, I was always someone that wanted to, excel academically and go to college, help myself and help my family. And so before, I think I was just trying to, find mentors and find any resource I guess I could find to achieve those goals, and also just really understand myself more and just grow as a person. And so and I think IYT definitely helped achieve all of that.
Yeah. Do you remember the time when you came across IYT, or like when you joined? Do you remember that moment? Tell me about that.
Yeah, so it was actually kind of funny. It was my school counselor at the time. So not sure if you know this, but she basically just said, "Hey, there's this program and I'm just going to sign you up." And so she like pulled us out of class, and I got introduced to Diego, I think Anthony was there, and so it was very vivid. It was unlike really anything else at Burbank, out to Burbank, because you just had a group of young men. The Burbank super diverse, so from really all backgrounds, and they were all there, and we started off with the creed, we did the clap, and it was it's a memorable experience for sure.
For sure. How did that, maybe through that, I mean, this is like early in the years, right? Kind of, I think you guys were you part of the first class?
I was part of the second class.
The second class.
Yeah.
So still very early stages, right? At one of the newer schools at the time, compared to where we are now, right? Kind of across the states, but I think Luther Burbank was just kind of one of the new schools in Sacramento. But going back to what I was trying to say, like, what did that do for you? Kind of like now being a part of a brotherhood or being part of like a mentoring program, like what did that do for you?
I think it did a lot. I mean, for sure it was like it gave me a sense of community and, kind of like a safe space as well. Because I had, people that looked like me, came from similar backgrounds, that were also achieving or striving for the same goals that I was striving for.
Yeah.
And at least personally, could have like these more in-depth conversations about issues or topics that I cared about, and they were definitely a support system as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean it was definitely a transformative experience to
Yeah.
to be part of that.
Yeah. And I know, so shortly after you graduated from high school, went off to UC Davis. Um, Shout out Aggies.
Go Eggs.
Right. Um, at what point did you kind of decide? Because I don't think it was right away, but at some point, you did decide, hey, I want to give back, right? To
Mhm.
be a mentor. Like, what was that kind of turning point for you to say, like, you know what, hey, I want to go back and give back to my community?
Yeah, no, I mean, I honestly fell in love with the organization and what it stood for, and what I had done for myself and like my friends and other brothers. And I at the time couldn't, and even now couldn't think of any other job that would be as impactful.
Yeah.
And so I think like growing up and even now, like in my career, I think something that I've tried to base my life around is trying to help others. And so,
Yeah.
uh, I think just having had such a positive experience, like it was something I really wanted to do.
Yeah.
And yeah, like I think I started my sophomore year of
Okay.
college,
Yeah.
and it was such a, it was also such a valuable experience, like just from the, getting more professional
Yeah.
experience, working in more of like a professional setting,
Yeah.
which I think again for a young man is extremely valuable.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think like it was just something that always was appealing to me, and
Mm-hmm.
I think mainly because of really great group of mentors that I had
Yeah.
um that were really impactful, and so it
For
it
sure.
made it made the job seem really appealing.
Yeah, I like that you mentioned about like the transformative experience and young men, because for those that are not aware, like IYT specifically, like they're very clear, specifically young men of color, right? And we always get questions, what's up with the women, right? We love, we know we need it, but there's a reason why, right? And even right before we were recording, I was mentioning about the executive order that
Hmm.
men's service challenge, right? That Governor Newsom put out to call out 10,000 young men to give back to their community, whether it's to be a mentor, to be a leader, to be a coach. And, in response, because of high suicide rates among young men or low college attendance or even low college enrollment
Hmm.
um, for young men specifically. And I guess there's two parts to this kind of like setup. And you answered partially a little bit, but like, why was it why is it important for you to serve, like even now, like even outside of a mentor, but now giving back and serving your community, like why is that as a young man?
Yeah, honestly, I you know I think for anyone it's important to serve and to give back. I think serving others is really fulfilling.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, it might sound a little cliche, but like the saying, like be the change you want to see. And
Yeah.
so there was definitely a lot of things that I think I would have preferred to be different, or a lot of I think injustices that I personally you know would like addressed. And so I just see service as a means of doing that.
Yeah.
And so I think it's twofold. It's one, being of service to others is it's extremely rewarding,
Yeah.
and it's I think it gives you purpose.
Yeah.
But also, again, it's like, I guess, just trying to be the change you want to see. And
Yeah.
yeah.
Do you, and I'm going to ask the part two in just a second after this follow up. Do you recall in your time of serving, whether as a mentor, or even like in recent experience, like where like a moment where it was kind of open up your eyes even more of like the importance of service, or just even maybe a student or somebody that you had a conversation, you're like, wow, like I see why this is important.
Hmm.
Does anything come to mind?
There's a couple experiences. I think like it, I think just being there for the students, looking back now, was so valuable.
Yeah.
Like as a mentor, you're there multiple times a week, and so you're just you're there to hear them out,
Yeah.
to help them through rough patches. Sometimes it was as simple as like telling them, hey, like I think it'd be wise to communicate,
Yeah.
because like they might not have the communication skills
Mm-hmm.
to to address their problem, and
Yeah.
like I still remember I had a student where he felt a certain way about the teacher, but he didn't tell the teacher.
Yeah.
And when he finally told the teacher, the teacher was like, I had no idea.
Yeah.
And I think that opened up a line of communication, and that was like one of his most difficult subjects for him.
Yeah.
And he ended up, I think he got his grade up to a B like right away, and then up
Yeah.
to an A. And
Yeah.
so it was just as simple as communication. And then I think there was other students that were definitely going through much more challenging
Yeah.
times in their life, or just dealing with challenges they hadn't really addressed. Um and so, sorry, what was your question again? I feel like
Yeah,
I
no,
lost
yeah.
myself.
It's just more of like, can you think of a moment either in your mentoring experience or a moment just seeing the importance of service?
Yeah. Yeah, I think those experiences, it's
Yeah.
like you're having this immense impact. And like I think at the time it might feel almost ordinary. This
Yeah.
is like just like in my current job we talk about putting out fires a lot, like putting out a
Yeah.
fire, like calming down a situation,
Mm-hmm.
trying to open up dialogue, whatever it may be. But you know, I remember, I think, similar students who ended up in completely different,
Yeah,
like their life outcome was completely different, and it could have been those small interactions,
for
that
sure.
kind of like build up.
For sure. Yeah. It the part two, and hopefully it's not a super loaded question, but it is it's kind of just getting your thought, right? From either again from personal experience or what you have seen either in the current field or in the past.
Hmm.
Like again, going back to if we're trying to get 10,000 more men, right? It's implying that guys aren't stepping up, right? Like
Hmm.
and I guess it's more of asking your thoughts, like why don't you why don't guys, what in your opinion, why don't guys step up from either that you're seeing or from your community? Like what are your thoughts on that? Because I like I said, there's so many factors that come to mind, but I'm just curious to hear what you think on that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a like variety of reasons. I think partially, I mean, the first thing that came to my mind, I think it's cultural. At least I can speak for like my own community, the Latino community. My parents personally were really about education.
Yeah.
But I know for a lot of families, it's, the way they've succeeded, or for whatever reason it be, I don't want to make a value judgment.
Yeah.
It's and the importance is put on hard work and
Mm,
working and getting to the workforce.
right.
And I think that's extremely valuable, and definitely a value that was instilled in myself. And seeing my dad like work 16 hours a day,
Yeah.
it and he taught me the value of hard work, but he also like taught me the value of an education,
Right.
of being of service to others.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of those men are probably of service to others. It's just in different ways, right?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
maybe it's not joining IYT, but maybe it's helping pay rent, helping buy groceries,
Right.
helping take care of their siblings. And so I think, again, that's where I think these programs are of service, because it's, you also give another perspective of like,
Right.
um, this is also something that you can prioritize or strive for
Right.
is serving others.
Yeah.
And so I think that's one. I think another reason, um, and I'll also say I do think there are a lot of great like men, young men of color, young men in general that are serving and trying to serve others. But I think,
Absolutely.
um, I think partially it's also just for some a lack of opportunity, or
Hmm.
it's not practical,
Yeah.
because if you're again going back to maybe trying to help your family pay rent or just survive,
Yeah.
maybe you don't have the opportunity to volunteer, do these
Yeah.
other things. And I think there are amazing people that do that.
Yeah.
I don't know, I always try to come from a place of empathy of like
Yeah.
it's hard.
For
It's hard.
sure. Yeah.
It's hard to balance all of those things.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. I think, and there's so many narratives, and even like there's so many like, I would say, even like research now about
Hmm.
like what it means for not only young men of color, but just young men, different time that we're living in, right? Access to technology, workforce is changing, just how we even uh, interact, right, with the opposite sex, right?
Hmm.
I love there was Professor Scott Galloway. He's someone that just came out. I don't know if you've heard of that name before,
Hmm.
but he's like a marketing guy at
Hmm.
NYU. But he has a new book talking about like young men, right? And talking almost exactly about the executive order, right? Seeing declines and, men being in relationships or even healthy relationships or
Hmm.
suicide rates and all these different things. And what I do appreciate him mentioning is it's not necessarily because we're emphasizing so much about men, it's not a zero sum game for our women, right?
Hmm.
Just because we're trying to uplift doesn't mean we're trying to downgrade, right? The women, right? It's for both, right? It's
Hmm.
we as they're more better and healthier men, that's only much better for the women, right, in our culture and society. But that was just something I wanted to mention, and kind of tying back to another angle of service, like kind of the current work that you do. You mentioned politics.
Hmm.
Tell me a little bit more of like where did that kind of interest came in? I know you even said earlier on, in high school, but how did that lead to where you are now?
Yeah, I'd say, a big part of it was just kind of lived experiences, and just seeing seeing scenarios that I just saw as injustices or systemic issues. Um, I think like even personally speaking, as an immigrant, I came here with the visa, but at the time, um, social services weren't really accessible to immigrants,
Yeah,
outside of people with like, um, with the green card or citizenship. And
yeah,
that's really changed in this state.
yeah,
Um, but I think those are examples of, at a time where I think my family really could have used that help.
yeah,
We didn't really have access to that.
yeah,
And so I think that's just like a very, I want to use that because it's a simple and personal example.
right.
But I think there's just a variety of, again, issues that I saw.
Hmm.
And yeah, I don't know. The more I learned, the more I wanted to do something
Yeah,
and learn how to make change.
yeah,
I think that was one of my goals in entering the field I'm in, was
yeah,
to learn, okay, how does change really happen, right?
yeah,
Because I think we have a notion of, okay, these are the players, this is the very general process.
yeah,
But I think once you get in there, you start to understand, okay, this is how you build momentum. This is
hmm,
how you build coalitions.
yeah,
This is how you turn an idea into a law and then into change. And
yeah,
so, those are some of the reasons why I was interested in
yeah.
in doing this type of work.
Yeah. So tell me more about what you do now. I know you are still in the political kind of sphere. Tell me more about kind of what you do day to day.
Yeah, so currently I'm a legislative assistant at the state assembly, and the day to day, it's a very fast paced environment. as a capital staffer, you review bills, you provide recommendations, you meet with a lot of different stakeholders, and
Yeah.
you really try to understand their issues and um, in ways you can potentially help. And also, as a staff, you help the members carry along their
Mm-hmm.
legislation. And so, with that, you learn the process, you learn
Right.
who the players are, and again, how to build coalitions that can, push important changes forward.
Yeah.
And also, there's some hard skills involved in how you can address people's concerns.
Right.
That's a big part of it. Is I think there's a lot of people that, for a lot of valid reasons, have concerns with changes, and so
Yeah.
trying to mitigate those so that whatever you do does do the most amount of good as possible
Yeah.
and doesn't have any unintended consequences.
Yeah. Kind of backing up a little bit, how is that, I like to kind of talk about this transition from like college to workforce,
Hmm.
because sometimes at least in my experience, it was a little like a shock factor at times
Hmm.
to like, going back to Davis, right? Like Davis is like a bubble in some
Hmm.
ways where, it was great to have those experiences, met a lot of great friends that I still have today. But then it's like once you like walk that stage and you leave that institution, it's like life kind of hits you in a different way. I'm just curious, like how was that transition for you going from college into the workforce, and like what did you learn through that time?
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely it was definitely a nervous time.
Yeah.
I can't, to be completely like honest. I was, coming into, I think, these new spaces, you question whether, you get that imposter syndrome. You question if you
Yeah.
should even be there.
Yeah.
And I did the Senate Fellowship Program, and
That's right. Yeah, yeah.
I was surrounded by extremely talented people with, great, like, brilliant, smart, caring people, and so it's a little intimidating.
Mm-hmm.
But I was also surrounded by really important figures that served as mentors
Mm-hmm.
there as well, and that's something that I appreciate a lot more now. Is
Yeah.
ironically, like,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
after
Right.
all this time, it's
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
you continue to learn, like, just the importance of a mentor, of someone
Yeah.
who can potentially relate to you and can guide you,
Yeah.
and can at times, help you with those like insecurities
For sure.
or those stresses.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it was definitely a change, and I think with any job, when you're first starting out, there's so much to learn.
Yeah.
Um, but I think, it's I think it's the same for everyone.
Yeah.
Everyone that starts a new job, they more or less can potentially start from
For
zero,
sure.
and it's just you got to ask questions, you got to have this growth mindset.
Yeah.
There's something my chief that says it's really funny to like
Uh-huh.
new staff, and she'll always say, if you don't have questions, that's when I'm worried.
Mm.
Because it's like, like, I think and she's been a great mentor, and I think that's like a good environment is where you're allowed to ask questions and
Yeah.
you're allowed to, have that growth.
Yeah.
But it's definitely had its challenges.
Yeah.
But like I said, I definitely had some really great people along the way that made that easier.
Yeah. Is it one of those? And I love that you mentioned about the mentorship, right?
Mm.
And I totally agree. Um, was that something that naturally happened, or something that you sought out? Because I know at times where not every environment is the same, as you
Hmm.
know, right? It really depends on the people that you're surrounded with. Sometimes you get lucky. Sometimes you're like, dang, I'm gonna have to navigate this a little bit differently. Like, how was it for you to maybe navigate those new spaces, and or find the people that like that okay, you can rely on, you can go to, talk about those insecurities that you're mentioning. Like those are real things that maybe not a lot of people may want to talk about up front.
Hmm.
But I can only imagine in a place like the Capitol, where people are just like on the go. They
Hmm.
have things that they want to get done. Like, how was that experience for you? Like, yeah, tell me about that.
Yeah, no, I feel honestly like I got pretty lucky. My legislative director for my fellowship office, he was really, we had a lot of shared experiences, immigrant families, coming from like low income families, backgrounds.
Yeah.
And so he understood a lot of, I think, the pressures I was feeling and the
Yeah.
stressors I was feeling.
Yeah.
Um, and, I think outside of like, and I'll say my whole office was really welcoming.
Yeah.
But outside of that, I think, there are people you meet that I think you naturally gravitate towards, or, who I think are more, they'll like, they'll, they'll be really down to earth with
Yeah.
you. And I think those are really, it's really important that you just, if anything, stay in contact with those people and ask
Yeah.
them for advice. And again, it's something, I think, that I had to work on,
Yeah.
to ask for help and ask.
Yeah.
And I think like sometimes it's just that not knowing what asking for help even looks like.
That's,
Um,
that's so sorry to cut you out. I was just telling one of my team members that today as I was kind of reflecting yesterday. So I have 9 people that I support, right,
mhm,
on my team. Half of them are like 3-year veterans,
mhm,
like they know kind of the ins and outs of like the role, and then my other half are like first time managers and all these different things, um, and I was just thinking about one in particular where it's like I feel like I was setting myself up to like, hey, I'm available. Let me know how I can support you. But then I kind of thought about like maybe they don't know how to ask,
mhm,
like what question to ask or how they what support they need. And so instead of putting that pressure on them, right, and being passive of like, hey, let me know, right? Because
mhm,
that's a nice thing, of course, right? Like I'll be available, but sometimes from my own experience, I didn't know uh, how to ask that help. Like I knew I needed the support, I just didn't
mhm.
know what exactly. So I'm glad that you mentioned that and to ask for that help. It could feel a little vulnerable,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah. And I agree. I think it's really valuable, especially when, established people in like leadership positions, like
Yeah,
even just check in, like, how are you
yeah,
doing? Like, how do you feel you're doing? And that, I think, opens up, room to have these important conversations.
yeah,
And yeah.
yeah. What would you say is some like a maybe like a proud moment you've had so far, like in your role or the work that you're doing?
Yeah. I think like, there's definitely been a couple, um, I I've had, I think, really, I recently had a really important piece of legislation passed.
Okay.
Well, it was like important to my office, and so having, I had the privilege to work on that, and like I said, meet with all these stakeholders, and
Yeah,
like have those negotiations and those conversations, and yeah, it was, to ultimately for it to get signed was
yeah,
definitely, I think, a great moment for
yeah.
myself.
Are you allowed to share what the legislation was?
Yeah, so it was AB 253, and essentially it was trying to help speed up housing permits
Okay.
for 1 to 10 unit housing developments, and
Mm-hmm.
so this was this was kind of an issue we had heard from a lot of people, that permits were taking too long, and in the housing space,
Yeah,
the longer a project takes, the more expensive it gets, the
got it.
less affordable it becomes. And so I think, like I said, with any change, I think there's a lot of people that have a lot of very different perspectives, and
Right,
different interests, and again, like hearing everyone now navigating like all of that, and ultimately ending up with something that I think should help, people, and
right.
should help address our housing crisis.
Yeah,
It was definitely a rewarding experience.
for sure. Is there anything like, um, whether it's now or maybe recent that was like something you're still kind of like being challenged with, or like uh, maybe another way to say this is kind of going back to my team, something I've asked them recently is like, what do you think is that one skill or habit that you're trying to maybe still accomplish to kind of get to that next level or wherever you're trying to be as a leader, right? Like
Hmm.
when you think about what kind of leader you want to be, what is that thing that you're either wrestling with still or still trying to like, I don't want to say master, but does that make sense?
Yeah. Um, it's a good question. Yeah. I'd say, I mean, I think a couple things came to mind. I think one of the things that I keep realizing just how important it is organization, just like
Yeah.
staying organized.
Yeah.
I think in for my job, and I'm sure for so many others,
Yeah.
there's so much like happening
Yeah.
at one
I was
time,
just gonna
and
ask, like, can you even be organized in that kind of pace, like an
you
environment?
you have to be,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
because
Okay.
you have
Yeah.
deadlines, and the
Yeah.
deadlines help.
Yeah.
They're stress, but they're also helpful because okay, well, this is due tomorrow, this is due soon,
Yeah.
whatever it may be. That takes number one priority.
Yeah.
But I think, yeah, just I think what's been most helpful is trying to um understand what's a priority,
Hmm.
and just keeping track of everything.
Yeah.
And I think now I have a list of things that's it's essentially this has to get done today.
Yeah.
And I think that's really helped. And I've revised kind of that organizational structure, and
Yeah.
using calendars, using stuff like that. Like
Yeah.
it's just so valuable. And
Yeah.
um keeping people in the loop as well.
Yeah.
I think that's part of like staying organized, so
For sure.
everyone kind of knows what's going on.
Yeah.
So I think communication, I think that would be a
Yeah.
skill as well of, especially when, I think that a certain conversation it might be uncomfortable,
Yeah.
and understanding that, that's fine, and
Yeah.
it's part of they just it should happen.
Yeah.
And finding ways to do that in the most productive way possible.
Right.
Because I mean, for me, like, I've tried to, when I talk to like newer staff, I know I'm relatively new, but when I talk to newer staff, I always
Yeah.
say, I think for the most part, as long as you're respectful and you do your work,
Mm.
you should be fine.
Hmm.
Obviously there's more to it,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
that's how I always try to lead.
Yeah.
Or that's how I try to carry myself. And so, uh, yeah, when you have to have those hard conversations,
Yeah.
doing it in a way that's respectful, I think
Absolutely.
is important to me.
Yeah. Is there anything that I'm really big on? Well, let me back up. You said a lot of great stuff about uh, one, work is hard, right? There are times where conversations can be difficult but needed,
Hmm.
or maybe time deadlines and all these different things. Uh, what would you say is the thing or things that keep you grounded? Right, I think it's important for leaders, right? Even, folks that are doing good work and hard work. There's usually something that's kind of as an anchor,
Hmm.
right? Like, what would you say is that for you?
I think to me, just my family.
Yeah,
Just thinking about their struggles. My mom, my dad, just um, yeah, what the things they had to go through, and what they did for myself and my sisters,
yeah,
and remembering that the work I do, in some way or form impacts them,
yeah,
and it's and yeah, and just the importance of being a public servant because
yeah.
of that. It's it it it's yeah, I'd say my family. Yeah.
Yeah. Do I say this also from I'm thinking about my mom
Hmm.
and someone that is very proud but may not understand everything that I do, and I try to explain in a way where it's like, well, like terms that she understands.
Yeah, yeah,
Get what
yeah,
I'm saying? Like,
yeah, yeah.
do you feel like your family understands kind of like what it means, what you're doing, or kind of like how do you kind of tell them like, yeah, about this legislation, like, or
Yeah.
did they like, oh, Miko, I'm just proud of you, whatever you're doing?
No, it's funny. Initially, I feel like I didn't like go into so much detail. But I think like lately I explain it to them a lot more.
Yeah.
And it's been fun to see like kind of this change. I feel like I've even changed like their worldview to some extent.
Wow.
Um, uh,
Was that surprising to you?
it was a little surprising. I'm
Okay.
not gonna lie.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it was. I think for them, it was like they had to struggle with certain values they had,
Yeah.
or whether those are like religious or just moral,
Mm-hmm.
and how you kind of, I don't want to say rectify, but how you
Reconcile
reconcile those values with like maybe
with
certain policies or
yeah,
certain like, yeah. And
for
so
sure.
but I think like the more I explained things,
Yeah.
they kind of started to understand things at a deeper level, and
Yeah.
for them it was like, oh, okay, like this is, now they see it more clearly,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
And so obviously, like you said, I definitely like tried to make it more digestible,
Yeah.
because I think that's, yeah. But
Absolutely. No, I get it. It's humorous a little bit, but also like I wish you could understand. And again, I think about this moment or this time where kind of like my mom, she didn't get a chance to go to college. She
Mhm.
immigrated from a different country in the 80s, and I think I must have been like post college, and I just remember her just sharing like that she was at San Francisco State,
Oh.
and but she wasn't there for school. She was working at like a smoothie bar,
Hmm.
and so I don't know why when she said it that way, it just kind of like hit me like, wow, she was at a university, but she didn't have the opportunity to get that education, right, or
Yeah.
had those opportunities to get the classes, and um, so again, this is an opportunity to like explain that, or maybe something that she didn't have, right, and at times it can be difficult, like, no, ma, this is what it means, or like, oh, you can be president. It's like, okay, sure, if you want me to be president, I'll be president. But it's like, but in a way, I think it's important to have these are generational conversations, right? The things that you're paving a way for your future family, or the people that you're impacting in your community. And I guess that's kind of where I'm going now. Like, as you think moving forward, where you are today, like, what are you hoping to see, like, for yourself? Like, where do you see yourself kind of moving forward in your career, as you're navigating through life? Like, where do you see yourself in the next few years?
Yeah, I think partially I'm still trying to figure that out myself.
Yeah,
I definitely really enjoy my job and my team. It's a great team.
yeah,
Honestly, really thankful for them, and
hmm,
so I think in the near future, definitely want to stay with them, and like I said, try to do as much good as possible.
yeah.
And post that, I definitely like. I'm considering going back to school, and
Okay,
you know,
masters.
masters. Not too sure. Like I said,
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
want to figure out exactly. Um,
We got him clipped up. He's gonna get his master. No, I'm just kidding.
but yeah, yeah, and then I don't know. I just know whatever I do, I want to try to help people.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. No, I think that rings true for a lot of people. I think what you do is great work. It's important work. Um, and I guess kind of going back to that picture, or you see, obviously, for those that are watching, we're in a room right now with a lot of different pictures from the time that IYT, right, has established itself. And like, what are you hoping to tell, like, the younger generation, the younger men, maybe, either
Hmm.
whether they're in IYT or not, like, what are you hoping to tell that young Silver now, knowing what you know now? What would you tell him?
Yeah. No, I'd tell them, you know, I don't partially like keep doing what you're doing, and maybe calm down a little bit.
Hmm.
Just understand that I think I think especially like in this day and age, it's so easy to like maybe compare yourself with
Yeah.
social media and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
I think something I learned in college was that, everyone has their own path, and also that it's also like never too late to
Yeah.
work on yourself, and I think life is, you continue to grow the entire time.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm ever gonna get to a point where I'm like, all right, well, I'm good enough.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So it's like you always have, I think, things you need to work on, and
For sure.
but also giving yourself that grace of, it's a process, and improvement comes like a step at a time, and
Yeah.
so yeah, I just like say, keep doing what you're doing, and yeah, just believe in yourself, and
Yeah. Was that kind of, before we wrap here, like, was that, did you have those moments of comparison or feeling like maybe you're not doing enough?
100%,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it's hard not to,
Yeah.
because I think especially like I think for some, um I want to say like people from like potentially people from like an immigrant like parents
Yeah.
who focus on you know go to college, do
Hmm.
these things. It almost feels like you almost I think you internalize it, and you see how much your parents worked and
Hmm.
the sacrifices made, and you think to yourself, well, this is just something that needs to happen.
Yeah.
At
Yeah.
least that's how it felt for me, and it can feel a little like I don't know, it might not you might not appreciate that success as
Yeah.
much either. And
Yeah.
also, you come out of college, you're not exactly like making a lot of money either.
For sure.
So
Yeah.
so then like you have to deal with life, and
Yeah.
so yeah, it's and like I think there's definitely some people that went into careers that maybe paid more or
Yeah.
whatever. But at the end of the day, I I I feel purpose, and
Yeah.
in what I do, and
Yeah.
I value that a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's something to be respected because you're absolutely right. Again, going back to a place like UC Davis, right? Great school, a lot of incredibly smart people doing, the hardest degrees
Hmm.
there possible, right? And trying to like compete again. It could be competitive, right? In terms of like, I'm gonna set the curve or do all these things, right? And sometimes that mindset, at least again, I'm on the same page of like, finding that purpose, right? Because there might be people that earn a lot, but that purpose is it's not fulfilling,
Yeah.
And I think you kind of hit it on the head about that, and just commend you for that. I just appreciate all the work that you're doing. Appreciate you coming on here, sharing your experiences, sharing your story. I feel like there's a lot of young men, Burbank, South Sac, across the board. Really, like there's people that need to hear your story, and I really appreciate you making some time to connect me. So I really appreciate you, Silver, man.
Thank you for inviting me.
Of course.
Really, really happy to be here. Yeah.
Of course. Hopefully, you're walking away with a better understanding of Silverio's journey through the program, as well as how you can participate in serving and giving back to your community through the Men's Service Challenge. To learn more about this, head over to improveyourtomorrow.org.